Hi, Mary.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm awesome. I appreciate you taking a little bit of time to chat with me today. I do a lot of blogs for Rise Above, and sometimes I like to mix it up and do videos so that people can listen instead of reading. And I was thinking through a topic that has come up a lot for me, for clients. We were both just at CWA. It came up a
hmm
bunch just walking around at CWA and having conversations with people. I've been talking to some lenders and investors recently as well. And the big topic is growth and like, where is the
hmm
growth going to come from? Who's growing the most? Is it one gym chain? Is it smaller gym chains? And you and I have had many conversations as we continue our partnership between Rise Above and Capitan. And I think the thing that we're aligned on is it's really revenue growth. Like that's really where it's going to come from as an operator. And I wanted to talk to you firstly as just someone who I respect and who's been around in the industry and is running a company in the industry. And then later on, I want to talk to you a little more specifically about Capitan, but as just like a human in the industry that's a professional that sits at CWA, that's going to the Association of British Climbing Wall Summit in September. Where do you think the lowest hanging fruit is today when we think about, okay, we have to grow our revenue? Like I always say, you're not going to save yourself into prosperity. Like managing your expenses in a business is that's just like SOP. Like if you're even
hmm
a business person, you should be doing that. Where you're really going to be prosperous and grow is going to be in thinking about your revenue strategy. Where do you think the lowest hanging fruit is today from what you've seen in the industry?
Yeah. Well, I think, we've had many conversations and where I think we're really aligned is kind of looking at, a climbing gym in a lot of ways. I come from the tech industry and almost looking at it more from that approach. And so the biggest thing that we saw and like why we started Capitan, a few years ago was most people that come into a climbing gym don't come back. And that was like the biggest glaring thing that we saw, the retention issue. And so
Mm.
for us, it's like the first thing that we saw. It's, most people that come into a climbing gym don't come back. And so like
Yeah.
every person that comes in is basically a lead. And, like to use like sales terms, some of those people you're going to DQ, like they were on a birthday or they were on a trip to Florida for the week and now they live in Colorado, they'll never be a member, but that's not most of the people coming in. And so what do we do to start to get those people into members? And so I think there's like a lot of things. And the biggest one for us that like we've seen, the biggest predictor of someone will become a member is their check-in count. And
Mm.
so how do we use technology to boost those check-ins in those early days to make kind of give that gym the biggest opportunity to convert that person into a member?
Yeah. Do you think, I'm trying to think of how to format this. It's like I've talked to some people recently and have kind of had to say, look, when we're looking at your model or when we're looking at your business plan, and people get really, I work with a lot of people that are aspiring gym owners and they're looking to open their first gym. We're doing demographic research, or sometimes I'm working with gyms that are like, hey, we're opening a new gym in Georgia or whatever the
Yeah.
thing is, right? And so we're doing demographic research. We're trying to understand like what portion of the market can we reasonably capture? What's that sort of serviceable market? And one of the things that I find myself sort of repeating a lot is there's not a climbing gym market anywhere in the world. I mean, Boulder, Colorado, Salt Lake City, picture like the places you think of when you think of like these climbing markets, right? Where
hmm
like you're sitting in Boulder, Colorado, you can look out at the Flatirons or whatever. Even these kinds of markets, there's just not a single market anywhere in the world that has enough climbers, quote unquote, in it to
hmm
sustain a climbing gym in perpetuity. It just doesn't exist. And so
Totally.
what climbing gym owners and operators actually have to get really good at is becoming educators, right?
hmm
And learning how to create rock climbers out of Mary when she walks
Yeah.
into a climbing gym for the first time, right? And like how do gym operators take advantage of that? Like how do they do that? How do they sort of make people into rock climbers?
Yeah. And I think, that. So it's funny that you say, like, how do you make Mary into a climber? So I didn't grow up climbing. I moved
Right.
to
Yeah.
Colorado. And like the first question was, where do you work? And the second one is, like, where do you climb? So I was like, okay, I'll go finally join a climbing gym. And I went and like, I was super intimidated. The walls are literally high. Like, did not consider myself a climber in a city that everyone considered themselves a climber. And so I remember going in and signing up for a membership because my friends had, told me to. And so, I got signed up for my membership and I was like, okay, what do I do now? And they were like, you go climb. And I was like, I have no idea how. Like, what does that even mean? And so, my friends kind of, showed me, what to do. And I kind of was going with them. And then, I was going, a couple times a week, stopped going, and that gym never reached out to me. And for every reason, I should never have gotten into climbing and should not be a
Yeah.
climber today.
Yeah. Right.
And so I think, what we really see is, and like, to that gym's credit, like 1,000 people could be coming out on a given day. And so you can't have a one-on relationship. You can't give me a 45-minute, intro spiel, and like, you're not like yoga or CrossFit where an instructor is literally going to like show me everything that I'm going to do. Yeah. And so I think what's been really important to us is how do we help gyms kind of sustainably create this new time experience? And so like the way we like to think about it is it's always like, what carrot do we want to dangle to get them to come back and help them and like encourage them to do that? So things that we see a lot now are like trial memberships. And with that trial membership, it's a little bit of a discount, so that can be nice, but also it'll include rentals. So we get rid of like the barrier of like having to get gear. It'll include often like an introductory course or some sort of thing to like do some of that education piece. And whether it's a discount or some gyms are like, we'll just give it to you for free because we know if we educate you on climbing, you are more likely to come back. And so other gyms, again, building up that habit is so important. So like one gym did a test where they were like, your second visit is free. We just want you to come back. The first time was probably hard and your forearms hurt and it was awful. So like come back, give it another go. And then we can start to kind of, add more of these classes and things on over time. And so I think it's really important that like knowing that first person, like there's a lot of reasons they're not going to come back. And so what do you do to get them to come back?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I give an analogy often about if I were to walk into a country club to go golfing, I've never golfed in my life, really not even one time.
Yeah.
Like even just visually, I would like show up covered in tattoos or whatever. It's some like country club. And it's like, I don't even know what to ask for. Like, I'm not kidding. I literally would walk up and be like, I want to golf ? Like, I wouldn't say, I actually do not know the answer as to whether or not I could wear my sneakers or do I have to rent shoes. Like, I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'm not just saying that for the purpose of this conversation. I literally do not know that. And so I think it's so important that operators understand what that experience is like for the clients coming in. It's so easy for us to forget how intimidating climbing is. I think like, I've been climbing for 26 years now. Like I just went and did a 5-pitch climb out in Rocky Mountain National Park this past weekend. And like, when I think about, there's a very small portion of humanity that like is comfortable going and doing that. And then you scale that back to just like walking into a climbing gym. And it's like, the entry barrier can be kind of high. So is that to tie that to revenue? When I think about sales, when I'm working with clients on sales, I always kind of say that climbing is a high consideration product, right? So if you were to compare your average climbing gym to say Bally's or, New York Sports Club or whatever it might be, like that stuff sort of sells itself in the sense that it's like everybody gets it. Okay, it's a bank, treadmills and cardio equipment, and you guys have free weights and you guys have some machines and blah, blah, blah. When you look at sales in the fitness world, it's very much just basically a description of features and benefits, right? And like, here's the value proposition. We have, 5 squat platforms instead of 2, like the other gym across the town or whatever. We can't really do that in the climbing gym world. Maybe if you or I walked into a gym and we're experienced climbers and we know exactly what we're looking for, and I walk in and I'm like, do you have hang boards? And I need the TB2 board that's the mirror or whatever, you know what I mean? But people that have never climbed before being like, well, we have 7,000 square feet of bouldering, or our routes rotate, 4 times a week. Like the new person that's walking in is gonna, I don't know what that means. I don't even care what that means. Right. I've actually done research when I was running a climbing gym chain for a bunch of years. We conducted a really big customer survey. So a little free information here for everybody that's listening. There's basically 2 things that people are thinking when they walk into a climbing gym. The first one is, I'm scared, will I be safe? Some version of that. I don't remember what the actual language was from this survey that we conducted, but it's some version of like, will I get the training that I need? Or will this be safe? Am I going to get it, right? The second one is, am I going to feel welcome? That one's really important, right? Because I would know when I walked into a country club, I would viscerally feel it like, whoa, am I one of these people? You know what I mean? And people come into climbing gyms and they're basically like, am I going to show up like a Gumby, and look like a dork? And will I be accepted? Will I be welcomed by the community here and by the staff? And the second one is like, am I going to be safe? So I think from an entry standpoint when it comes to educating people, because it's a high consideration product, we've got to be thinking about those two things.
Yeah.
And what gets people back in is, and I know this from conducting research as well, so coming in, it's, will I be safe? Will I be welcome? Generally speaking. And then for returning, it's essentially, am I going to make friends and am I going to get better? That's it. Like, if we could completely simplify revenue growth down to 4 things, it would be the first time visit, people have to feel safe and they have to feel welcome. And if you want them to come back, they have to feel like they're going to build social connections and they have to genuinely improve at the sport. Right?
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about, from the Capitan perspective, we've sort of been babbling a bit about like our experiences and, you know, thinking through becoming an educator instead of just like somebody that offers rock climbing, right? You can offer rock climbing, or you can sort of educate someone on the sport and the activity. Talk to me about Capitan. This is not like a paid sponsorship, by the way, it's watching, but like, one of the reasons why you and I have been talking a lot is I like that a lot of what you pitch and what you and Wes talk about is like, we're helping drive growth. Like, we're helping gym operators sort of take control of their revenue. And when we think about education, sort of that sense of belonging and engagement and that high consideration aspect that climbing has over, say, fitness, where it's like I said, treadmills, kettlebells, I get it. How is Capitan supporting? Like, what does that look like from the standpoint of like using Capitan?
Yeah. So I think for us, it's kind of, you know, a couple of things. It's one, so many people are coming into a climbing gym, so you don't have that one-on-one relationship. Right. And it's not like I went to, you know, Barry's boot camp, which is like very boutique-y, small class. So like my first time, the instructor could spend a lot of time with me. They knew it was my first time, and like they gave me this very curated thing. That's hard to do at scale. And so what we always try to do is, how do we, you know, do some of that personal touch, but also use a lot of automation behind the scenes. So that's everything from when someone scans in, like on their check-in, we call out like 2 very important milestones. One, their first visit. So that means that like staff should know, okay, like in the sea of, you know, 1,000 people that are coming in today, this person deserves extra attention because I need to make sure, to your point, they feel safe and they feel like they don't feel like an idiot. And so I can, you know, spend more time with them, make sure that they feel comfortable. The other one that we found is really important is their first visit back. So that first one, maybe I was like, this is okay. I'm still kind of on the fence. I'm willing to give it another try. We want staff to, again, know that that person is willing to give you another try and see how that first time went. Did they find what they were looking for? Like, did they, you know, find the courses? Like, are they a climber? Are they climbing curious? Like, what is it? And so kind of, again, help them get to that next step. And then a lot of tools to like get them from that first visit to that second one. So one that we have that's really powerful is what we call a check-in challenge, where basically a gym says, you decide how many check-ins you want to do in what amount of time and whatever carrot you want to dangle at the end of that. So like what we'll see is like, you know, if you check in 3 times in your first 30 days, maybe I give you a discount on your first month of membership, or I give you a free class, or I give you a retail discount. So you buy your own shoes because you've been on a trial membership and getting free rentals or whatever it is. And so it's ways that gyms can start to, again, kind of build up that habit right from the get-go. So I learned that like climbing isn't just like an activity I can try, kind of like I'm going go-karting with friends. Like this is like a sustainable thing that I'm going to build up that habit right from the start. And then again, all those different things around it. So the other thing that's like unique to climbing, I feel like, is, you know, some people might be coming on a day pass. Some might be coming for a birthday party. Some might be coming for whatever it is. And so whatever that entry point into the gym is, we want to automate what we want that next step to be. So someone comes to a birthday party, let's give them 2-for-1 day passes so they come with their child next week, or whatever it is. And so again, making all of those things automated and really tailored to wherever they're at.
You bring up a pretty good point that I hadn't really thought about at the top of this discussion, which is like, climbing gyms, again, if we kind of just pick this fairly standard climbing gym business model as it is today, you're offering youth programs, you've got meetups, you've got climbing classes, you've got beginner stuff, you've got people like me who've been climbing for 25 years coming in. There is like another fundamental difference from a lot of other businesses is sort of the breadth of like the users that you're processing. So it's not just a quantity issue as well. It's also sort of a like, you got Gavin visiting from Colorado. He's never going to be a member, but I should still have a good experience. And then you've got people showing up that have never climbed before. And then you've maybe got a mom coming with her 2 kids, and like the kind of the whole gamut. That's kind of an interesting point that you brought up. I want to wrap this up so people don't get too bored, but on the backside of this, a lot of what we've talked about as it relates to revenue is sort of converting people into members, I guess, generically, if we had to that category. And I think where things really get exciting when I'm building financial models for gyms and stuff is actually in retention, right? It's much cheaper. All the stuff that you just talked about, all the automation, trying to convince somebody to come 3 times, discounting day passes, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty expensive, right? When you look at how much value are you giving away, how much time, payroll are you using to build all of that out, or whatever it might be. Whereas if you can just keep Gavin and Mary happy, like they're just members at your gym, right? So how do you think things like, whether it's check-in challenge or something similar, obviously check-in challenge is like Capitan's branded version of just be engaged, right? So when you think about engagement, how do you think that plays into taking strategic control of your revenue from a retention standpoint?
Yeah, well, I think like they go hand in hand, right? Like you're only willing to make all of those investments up front if you know that you're going to retain that customer. If I'm throwing discounts at you and offers, and then I never keep you as a member, then that was like money I kind of threw out the window. And so I think for us, it's like that, to your point, like that's the expensive part, but there's a reason you do that. And that's how we keep them long term. And so like those check-in challenges, like another really common one that we see them used is like lifestyle or lifetime achievements. So like your 50th check-in, like at one gym, you get a t-shirt, and then at 100, you get a sweatshirt, and then like 250, and it becomes this very like status symbol at the gym. Like you have earned your sweatshirt. Like also they become free marketing for you, but also it's keeping members happy and engaged. And so like other things that we have are like a big one actually that we have that like and kind of works for both ends in a way is like referral discounts. So if I'm a member, like I've already like, really bought into the gym, I love it, and I persuade my friend to join, my friend maybe gets a discount. So again, they're persuaded to join. And then also maybe I get, $5 or $10 or whatever it is off my next monthly recurring dues. And so it's a nice way of like, I feel like I'm helping build my community. I'm bringing someone that I know, right? Like they're already a friend. I'm getting another climbing friend, which is great, because another reason we see people leave is like their climbing friends move or, stop climbing, and now they don't have people to climb with. So like now I'm actually probably more likely to maintain my membership. And the gym gets to like, kind of reward that customer for helping them grow the community. So that's one that like is an interesting way because it helps on both ends.
Yeah, that's a super good, maybe full circle, because you mentioned in the beginning, climbing gyms are processing a lot of humans through the door. I used to run a gym that on a Saturday saw 2,000 check-ins. It's like absurd. It's like McDonald's numbers, right? And so you can't have these like sort of detailed relationships with 2,000 people as they're flowing through the door. But then you just talked about referral programs, and the specific example you gave is, if you come with a friend. And what I would say to anybody that's watching this is possibly the most powerful tool that I think operators have, because it's not super scalable in a way that I've unpacked or seen yet, to sort of have that type of experience for a new climber. Meaning, I don't care how well trained your staff is or what SOPs you have in place or whatever, there is no version of an experience that will be better than going to a climbing gym with your friend that is a member there, for example, because they're going to be like, let me show you this, and they're going to be guiding you the entire time, literally, perhaps, if we're talking about a rope gym. And so there's no version of like a staff-based experience that even touches like if I brought you to the gym for the first time, right? And so leveraging that, I think, is a really, really powerful tool. And how do you like build processes that will make people want to bring their friends, and like how you make them stay? So that would be my maybe like closing recommendation. The best way that you can think about growth and revenue is by providing an amazing experience and making sure that the people that are coming to your gym or that are members already are having such a good time that they like want to bring somebody else, right? Because there's no better version of going to a gym than going with your friend that's a member and a climber, because you feel safe. they're going to be like, take your harness off before you boulder, or whatever the thing is, right? So like,
yeah. Oh, I've told many friends like you don't put socks on with climbing.
Yeah, totally. Like you get all of those little tips. So yeah. Well, what's your closing recommendation? What's the thing that, like, if every gym operator in the universe was watching this, which I very suspect is the case, what would you say? Like, if you want to grow your revenue, you need to ...
Yeah, well, I think it's like, I wish there was like one silver bullet. It's
Right,
like referrals will fix
If
everything.
it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it is like all of these small things together, and it's really looking at the entire like customer journey. And again, like people coming in at different angles to your climbing gym. I think the other one that we didn't touch on a lot too is like, you can only fit so many people in your gym, like at any given time. How do you grow revenue within that one member and like get them to start spending more? And so I really do think there's so many similarities between how like tech companies look at subscriptions and like really what climbing gyms are at the end of the day. And so like, it's, I always tell our customers it's awesome to look at other climbing gyms, but like for what they're doing. But I'm like, if you see something cool in a coffee shop, let us know. Like maybe that's a better fit. And so I think at the end of the day, it's like, how do you get more customers in? How do you keep them longer? And then how do you get them spending more? And there's so many pieces to that. And so I think the last piece of all of that is like having good analytics that go with it, because we all know directionally all these things work. But I think a big thing, like what separates some climbing gyms from others, is like how well they are able to really like refine those strategies to like make it more sustainable. And like, particularly if you are trying to open more locations and things like that, that's where like that piece I think can be really important too. Yeah,
awesome. I agree. I think it's like, look outside of our industry. There's a lot of industries that have been around for a very, very long time and are very successful. And there's a lot of wheels that we probably don't need to reinvent. Maybe we need to figure out the right size wheel that fits on our car, or whatever the metaphor would be. And then 100% on data and like analytics and knowing what's happening in your business unleashes like really powerful decision making. And I've seen that happen running gyms before, where we've gone from sort of throwing noodles at the wall and going, oh, to like getting more serious about data analytics, and all of a sudden being like, whoa, like we can be pretty surgical with this decision because we really understand what our customer behavior is. So cool. Well, thanks for taking some time to chat, and we can do this more, I hope.
Yeah, it's been great.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Have a good one.